Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start by giving you a brief operational update before I get into the more formal part of the briefing. Today, as you all know, after 9 days, we've flown over 22,000 sorties and air operations. In those air operations, we have over 26 air-to-air kills by the coalition air forces. The most recent engagement was 11:20 today, local time. 2 U.S. F-15s engaged 4 Iraqi MiG-23s just southeast of Baghdad. At the conclusion of that engagement, 4 Iraqi MiG-23s were destroyed. There were no U.S. losses. The coalition also continues to attack his air force in the air whenever we have an opportunity to do that, and we also attack them in their hardened shelters. As you probably know, our air campaign has started to force his air force into Iran. Just since yesterday, we have over 39 aircraft that have gone into Iran. To be precise, in the last 24 hours, since 1900 hours last night to 1900 hours tonight, we have had 23 aircraft go into Iran. Most of them have been fighter aircraft. We also continue to isolate his forces in the Kuwaiti theater of operation. We are continuing to successfully attack many of the key bridges going into that area. We have had no aircraft losses in the last 48 hours. As far as naval operations are concerned, coalition forces have been actively attacking enemy patrol and mine-laying craft in the North Arabian Gulf and near Bubiyan Island. As of today, 18 enemy vessels have been sunk or badly damaged. Ground operations continue to be limited to sporadic artillery and rocket launcher fire by the Iraqis, and the U.S. and coalition forces are countering that by employing close air support and artillery counter-battery fire. As far as air defense activities are concerned, I'm sure you know that to date the Iraqis have fired 51 Scud missiles, 26 at Saudi Arabia and 25 at Israel. Most recent attack was last night at about 10:48 local time. I don't think I need to tell anybody here that we took 1 Scud missile in Saudi Arabia from southern Iraq, and 5 Scud missiles were launched against Israel from western Iraq. The Patriot battery in Riyadh, of course, did kill the incoming Scud missile here, and preliminary reports indicate that the Patriot missiles also killed all 5 incoming into Israel yesterday. I think that concludes just a brief operational update, and I would now like to talk to you a little bit about the military aspects of this oil spill. The reason why I chose to brief you today is because I heard a lot of questions yesterday from this group here and also the group in the Pentagon briefing, and we had to leave those questions unanswered because we were contemplating some actions, but we didn't want to endanger the air crews that were involved. Those actions have taken place, and so I'd like to now talk to you about it. First chart, please. I'm going to use a technique that General Powell and Secretary Cheney used, and that's use sketches to illustrate the points we want to make. These sketches all come from hard evidence. They are schematic in nature, but pretty accurate. What you see here is this is the coastline of Kuwait. This is the Mina Al-Madi oil fields over here. And what you have here is a terminal that goes out on a pier, another terminal that goes out on a pier, another terminal. Right down here, these rectangles that you see here are the 5 ships that were located and still are located at those piers. These ships on the 16th of January were low in the water. They were completely full of oil. As of this time, on the 24th of January, these 5 ships right here were apparently emptied of oil, or almost empty, because they were riding very, very high in the water. You also have out here a Sea Island terminal and an oiling buoy. These terminals and buoys are both used to fill the super tankers that can't get into the shallow draft area in this area. As of 12:27 local, what you saw out here was the Sea Island terminal intact and a very, very large oil spill that was coming out of the oiling buoy and essentially looked like this going down the coast. We have gone back and checked all of our military operations between the time when we last looked at this oil buoy and nothing was coming out, which was approximately the 16th, and the 24th at the time we found this situation. And I can tell you that we see absolutely no indication at all, that any U.S. military action caused this to happen. The best estimates we have based upon the length of the oil spill is that this probably was opened up about the 19th in order to have what happened between the 19th and the 24th when we got this evidence. I received this evidence at our headquarters very early in the morning of the 25th of January. We immediately notified the Saudi Arabians of this, and during most of the day of the 25th, we consulted with experts from Saudi Arabia, Aramco experts, petroleum engineers, oil field engineers, and also people from the environmental agency of Saudi Arabia. What we were really interested in is, number one, how much damage this was going to do to Saudi Arabia and the military operations. We were also interested in anything we could do to assist in somehow trying to help with what was going on. At that time, they asked us to try and do two things. They said, first of all, about the best thing we could do right away would be to somehow set the source of this oil spill on fire. If we could set it on fire, it would burn off a great deal of the pollutants that otherwise would go into the Gulf and continue to flow down. The other thing they did is ask me to somehow cut off the flow of oil to this buoy. That became a major interest of ours because, of course, we are not in the business of destroying Kuwait while we are liberating Kuwait. And we certainly didn't want to go in and completely destroy the oil field or do undue damage. I would tell you that I am no oil expert. I was not then, and I certainly am not now. And therefore, we needed the advice of many, many experts as to how to go about doing this. And we finally came up with a solution that I'll talk to you about in just a minute. Next slide, please. On the evening of the 25th, after we had gotten the recommendations from these experts, we just happened to have a circumstantial happening out here at the Sea Island Terminal. The United States Navy encountered a small boat. This was a small boat of the type that is suspected of supporting mine-laying craft, also a small boat that has anti-aircraft on it, and it's the type of small boat that they've been going after out in the area because those boats have been shooting at them. They engaged that boat. That boat happened to be next to the Sea Island Terminal, and as a result of that engagement, the Sea Island Terminal caught fire. So just by circumstance, we did accomplish the first thing we were asked to do, and that is set the source on fire, even though that's not exactly the way we expected to do it. I would tell you that the almost immediate results we saw, though, on the night of the 25th, again looking at hard evidence, is we found that the flow of oil out to the oil buoy had been cut off, and as a result of this fire, it seemed like that the flow of oil from the Sea Island Terminal was considerably less than the flow of oil that was coming out of the oiling buoy. Next, please. This is a blow-up of the crude oil storage terminal north and the crude oil storage terminal south. And basically what we have here is storage tanks, and south of these storage tanks are two small manifold areas, a manifold area here and a manifold area here. These two areas, by the way, are about 3.5 miles apart, and they're approximately 5 miles away from the shoreline. The Sea Island Terminal is about 8 miles further out. What the petroleum engineers and the oil field experts advised us to do was to take out these manifolds. They said if we could destroy the manifold here, number one, it was a type of damage that could be repaired very quickly once we went back into the area in approximately 2 weeks' time was their estimate. But they said that if you took out these manifolds, the manifolds essentially controlled the flow of all the oil that comes out of the oil fields into the storage area and further from the storage area out to the ocean, and the same thing with regard to coming through here. So that's what we decided to do. Unfortunately, at that time, the weather was very bad, and this obviously had to be a very precise military operation because, as I say, we don't want to liberate Kuwait by destroying Kuwait. So we had to wait until a time when we could go ahead and launch that against those two manifolds. 22:30 last night, was when we launched that exercise. I'd now like to show you a tape of that operation, and what you're going to see here I'll be happy to explain. Go ahead and turn the tape on, please. The type of munition that was used was a GBU-15 guided precision munition fired from an F-111 aircraft. And what you're going to be doing is looking directly through the TV camera in the nose of that aircraft as it goes right into the manifolds, and you'll see the manifold areas. Is someone playing the tape? The tape is not playing up here for this audience. A manifold is a system of pipes that controls the outflow pressure out of the oil fields. That's the best. That's as far as my expertise goes. There we go. Is there any way you can back that up? So. You're going to get to see a backward attack here, I guess. Okay, that's good. Right there. That's perfect. Now, what you're seeing here is that's the manifold area, the very small area that I talked about, and you're looking right through the nose of the guided munition as it's flown straight into the small manifold area to destroy it. That's one. This is the manifold area that was destroyed before. This is the second one. Now this next is a tape that was taken late in the afternoon yesterday, prior to the time we destroyed the manifold, and it gives you some idea of what we had. You can see very, very heavy black smoke, a very large fire out in the area. That is Sea Island Terminal, yes. That's where the fire was occurring and the leakage was happening yesterday. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Now, this is after the attack. This is early today. You will see that you have an entirely different color smoke coming out of here, which I'm told is because the oil is deeper in the water and it's burning much less. And you can see the size of the flame area is much, much smaller than the one you saw just a few minutes ago. We have some still shots up here that I have up for you that I'll show you in a minute that I think are much more dramatic. It'll show you the degree of reduction. Okay, next, please. I know these are hard for you to see, and we'll leave them up for you to see afterwards, but just as an indication, here is your pier area running out here, and you can see the very, very large fireball that was out here. This was as of 0913 on 26 January. You can see how very, very large that fireball is. If you compare that to what you see here, this is a much closer shot of the pier, and the fireball here, I think you'll see by comparison that that fireball is considerably diminished. The question may come to mind, why is it still burning? I've been told that because, number one, as I told you, the manifolds were 5 miles away from the shore, and then from the shore you have another 8 mile of pipeline going out to the Sea Island Terminal. You had 13 miles of oil in that manifold, in that pipeline that was probably flowing, and the best estimates that we had originally were that it'll take more than 24 hours before the fire goes out. I would like to tell you right now that I'm certainly not an expert, and I am not guaranteeing anybody that this fire is going to go out. All I'm showing you is what we have done to date to try and use our military power to solve this very, very difficult problem, and I'm trying to show you that we try to do it in such a way that we're not out there destroying the entire economy of Kuwait by doing it. I think that we've been successful, but only time is going to tell. We'll leave that up for you to see later. Next, please. And I guess finally I would just finish up saying that this is what we think the oil spill